everybody, I'm Sean Robinson.
I'm Brandon Graham.
Welcome to Living the Line, and today we have with us once again the amazing, the incredible XURXO PENALTA. How you doing, XURXO?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling a little underdressed now though, because I have my Pac-Man shirt on, and you have your Italian seaside outfit.
He skinned a fish
Yeah.
for that shirt.
I,
Yeah.
I I like to pretend that you bought it in Malta on a visit.
I
Is that?
could have. Yeah, it was probably made somewhere near there, but yeah.
Well, I'm joining you in your nerd shirt. I've got a Tintin on today,
Yeah,
Nice.
nice.
which
Nice.
matches my tattoo.
If we can get a Tintin Pac-Man crossover, I think we will all be happy.
I think Pac-Man with a little flip in the front of his hair. Totally work.
So we talked to you, XURXO, when Moonray Book 2 came out. It's the series that you and Brandon have been collaborating on. And currently working on Book 3, which is almost done. XURXO's portion of it is done anyway. I wanted to come back and talk to you again about something else you guys have been doing, because they just launched the Moonray Game, and it just came out this month in the Epic store for download. And I understand this is like a moving target, like it's not like it's the final version of the game, but they're continuing to work on it in development. But one of the unique things about the game is the fact that they actually got comic artists like yourself, and eventually Brandon as well, involved not just in the development of the concepts, but also actually being a developer and designer on the game. So I guess that's such a unique thing. At least maybe it's not unique, but maybe it's unique to me hearing about it. But I was so kind of interested in that I wanted to ask you explicitly about like what it's like basically taking your comic skills and your illustrator skills and turning yourself into a video game developer. Like how does this work? What do you do?
I
Tell me
don't
the
know.
secrets.
Yeah, I'm still in the process. It's been 6 months, I think, pretty much this month. So, and the game came out the 1st of July, so 2024, in case anyone is listening back to this in the future. So, yeah, I was working with Brandon on the comic book. Brandon brought me in. He was working before me, and he was working just making stories and making the lore for the comic book, pretty much for the game, providing the lore, and
Right.
and some of the some of those drawings and ideas started to seep into the game as well. And when I came in, we started just working on a comic. There was really hardly any reference from the game. I think Farrell, Dalrymple, and
Right.
Brandon had also worked before I did. And you want to say something about that, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, basically, when it's interesting. It's very, like, you're right, Sean, in how this is very different from how video games are made. I mean, it's the first video game I've been involved in, but my understanding is that the difference of Moonray is that there was a trailer that existed before I came on, but so they had kind of the basic look of the game, and it's very just like weird. It was very what's the word for it? It's very kind of 1980s, like abstract. It was like abstracted like shapes and pyramids in like big fields of grass. It's really cool look. Kind of vaporwave is the name for it. And so yeah, initially me and Farrell were doing just kind of regular standard video game work where you do illustrations and designs and kind of talk about like the lore of the game. And then we started the comic book, and so the unique thing about Moonray is they're building the game now off of the comic. So they'll be doing kind of a player versus player fighting game, but then in the comic we'll have like they go through this area and they'll be like, oh, we're building it as a level now that the characters fight in. And so yeah, me and XURXO were doing he's doing kind of a backup story in the main comic that we're working on together, and they pulled him from that and brought him into the art director position to kind of be more inside controlling the look of the game. And so it's been a big process for you of kind of learning all the mechanisms of how a game works, and I've seen you like do a lot of draw overs of things that other people.
Yeah, I've done a number of things. I mean, so how it went on, it was like we had these regular meetings where we would do the comic book meeting, and then we would do the art of the game meeting, and we would we started to blend the two together. So
Right.
I would give feedback on the character designs and the weapons and things, because to some degree they were adapting things from the comic, but to other degree they were not. It was new stuff, but I'm very opinionated and critical and stuff, and I have a lot of background on that. It's not, I know those are can be read as negatives, but they are with a good intent, so
Sure.
I can do that. Yeah, so it became helpful to unify the vision, to have someone like me come in and sink those opinions deeper into the whole game, not just the characters or anything. And it was a moment that the game was still in a early stage, and now it's much more advanced. But like in these 6 months that I've been doing this, I think I touched every game that you actually see as a player. So there's nothing inherited that you see that I didn't filter, change, or remade 100%. So it's just 6 months, but it's been very, very intensive, like nonstop and stuff. And how it really bridged, it was like I started giving that feedback, and then I started doing little concepts, right, being more precise in some of the indications, doing little drawings, little concepts of weapons and things. And then they started to demand the concepts from me, and then I they offered this switch into a permanent focus on full art direction and everything, because it requires me to direct videos and to direct clips and trailers for the characters, to light stuff, and to do scene setting and stuff. It's not just drawing and things. And it also requires me to do audio work, the work with the audio guys and the actors that read the lines for the game. And I also write the dialogue that the actors read and stuff, and whatever's demanded. One of the things that was surprising to me and very positive was that this kind of work, it's so all-encompassing that the more you know, and the more curious that you are, and the more experience and knowledge and baggage that you bring to it, the richer it is, and the more possibilities you have to
Cool.
contribute.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
and that,
something early on in the game that was interesting is because when we were doing the comic before you brought it on and you were talking about being opinionated, it's that Moonray does look not like anything else. So I feel like some of your early frustration is when things didn't look weird in the right way. If things look
yeah.
too normal, like how Hollywood movies will all start to look like, oh, we know what a dragon looked like in X-Men because the dragon will look the same in Star Wars or something. And you're very opinionated about like, no, we need to keep the designs of this in a certain feeling.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
what David Lasky, the cartoonist, used to call the Beatles wig phenomenon. If you watch a movie about the Beatles that was filmed in the 70s or whatever, everybody has on like Beatles wigs. And you get like a standard like look for that era for that particular thing. And the same thing happens with science fiction, right? Quote unquote science fiction in a Hollywood setup or in a video game context is essentially all cookie cutter, like you're saying, like they have like a template. Not saying that this would be something that the team would do, but that's the type of thing you're pushing against, is that template.
Yeah, that was the mandate from the beginning already with the comic. That was the idea. And in the first meetings with the team before I started to do the comic, that was one of the main pyramidal sort of founding ideas, no, to make it different and to make it not really recognizable or immediately recognizable, and not derive from these very well established ideas. And at the beginning that's a little intimidating, but you start to work on it, and it was great that I started to work on the comic because I could really experiment and just run with it and solve issues and get familiar. And eventually I got an inherited an internal understanding of that weirdness, and it's familiar to me. So it just looks weird to the people that haven't seen it. I don't think, maybe it's not that weird, or but if someone comes in new into the project, it does take a little bit to understand why things are the way they are, because they're not exactly like anything else.
Right. Should we start to go through some of your drawings so we can talk about?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sharing the screen, and let's just it's a little bit random, but let's see what we have here. See, these are very early concepts for arenas that never really materialized, but earlier on. But now, 6 months later, we do have things that do look like this. And
I'm not
so
seeing
these
it
are.
right now.
Oh, you're not? Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay. Can you see it now?
There we go. Whoa.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and this is the god Rog Hu, which is a little bit the comic.
This is from the comic, and I made an environment for it. In the comic, he's not featured on an environment. So something doesn't respond. And I do many iterations, because for the concepts you want to explore and stuff. And these are weapon ideas. They're not exactly, they're not like mechanic or anything. They're like crystal based and stuff, but they have to have movement to them and things. And this is a very early idea for a cannon that is two crystals, and when you put them together, when you hold it with two arms or two hands, and when you press the crystals into each other, they produce like the shot, right? The fire.
Oh yeah.
So just little ideas like that, and try to think a little bit out. This is a little more traditional, gun and stuff, and this was never used. But with the concepts we can explore. This is a sketch for the. Sorry, this was a sketch for what finally became the main cover of the game.
Right, the header. Yeah.
Yeah. This is everywhere. There's more. See, these are some weapons here, some firing weapons. So as you can see, there's no mechanics or anything. It's just like fossilized or crystallized lava or something holding to some molten material, and
it looks like a heavy metal logo near the end.
What?
It looks like a logo for a heavy metal band near the end.
Oh. This is a sword of the same ilk, also you want to make a full range of weapons, right? You want to make swords and firing weapons and cannons and things for each character. This is an idea, an early character that was around. It's no longer there, but this is an idea for a scene of him, Excalibur moment and stuff. Bringing some of that Conan iconography and medieval thing, but into this very strange real world, so it doesn't really look like exactly what you're used to. Also, that's the real aspect. It makes everything very malleable. You don't really have to do like this would be the sword and stone, right, idea, but it doesn't have to look like that. It can be, this has more inspiration from like a cathedral or a church or something like that. And
sure.
And here is more. These are my earliest things. I'm just looking at the folder chronologically. These are sketches from a notebook and things before they were materialized. These are based. What?
I wanted to ask. I mean, it seems like since everything is going to end up being rendered in 3D, that for a lot of artists or a lot of cartoonists who think in a more flat kind of static sort of iconographic iconographic way, they might have problems with that because they're presenting something that doesn't necessarily like rotate. But since you're such a volumetric artist, you have a very high awareness of depicting volume in a two-dimensional image and sort of thinking through the structure of the thing. It seems like maybe you don't have those same kinds of limitations that some other cartoonists might have in terms of developing something for a three-dimensional render. Is that the case, or is that still?
It is. It's not that it's easy, but it helps that I can think in that manner as well. But when you do weapons like this, swords and stuff, the basic shape is very important because it's what it's going to make it different, you know. So if you can get them down like this in quick sketches, and if they work and look different, if you noticed here, these 5 or whatever, they look pretty different, or 6. They look pretty different, right, from each other. They may have some common notes or ideas or something, but they look pretty different. And that's what's most useful when you want to go into a larger concept, the difference, right? And that basic difference, it's very easy to get on a quick sketch in a notebook or something like that without concerning yourself with the 3D of it all and stuff, you know, because it's you need the quick solutions, you know, and then you can go into color and stuff and break things down and make them clearer, or, you know, apply materials and things, and, you know, the idea comes more evident. But the most important part is that they look different, you know, and that they're readable, you know.
Right. Readable on a potentially small low resolution device.
Yeah, and readable for the viewer, because it's the silhouette idea. And probably you're familiar, right, with the silhouette idea from animation, right?
Educate our audience. Yes.
No, but everybody. I mean, you have the 7 dwarfs from Walt Disney, right? So I think it comes from that. Maybe it's earlier, but that's the chief reference I have. 7 dwarfs from Disney, Snow White. They look, the 7 of them, they look different when they walk through the tree trunk, right? And they're whistling, and you see the 5 silhouettes with the sun behind them, and you recognize that they're all different, and you can tell them all apart. It's this idea. The same applies here. One weapon has to be different from the other, or different enough, you know, so that they don't repeat, and to avoid confusion. And then you can go into details, materials, and things, and inner workings and things. But that silhouette is of chief importance. And that's something to concern yourself with when you're doing concept work. This is some early, just random drawings, because at the beginning I was asked to just this maybe was before I started working full time, so I was just asked to come up with ideas and come up with things and objects, assets that could populate the world and make it richer, or scenes and stuff. This down here is a character from our comic, the Nun, she's called, and this is like a building I came up with. I mean, something that could look cool, you know. These are development sketches for a character that was being adapted from Brandon's issue. She's called the Red Sword. So it's just basically like a silhouette of a female with in red in Brandon's depiction. But for the 3D rendering, it demanded so much more, right? So
you tried out. Are you auditioning different noses or different approaches here?
Yeah, and bringing things into it. For instance, as we said before, the world has its own rules and aesthetics. So one of them is like no one really has eyes or nose or mouth or recognizable human features. So you have to imply them just a little bit, so there's some humanity there. So you have to find some other devices. See, you can see here. This is an early sketch of it, very very crude in 3D. From Manuel, which is our character artist. and this is a paint over by me, just trying to bring more, to reduce some of the baroque elements, and to make it more of a malleable figure, because in Brandon's depictions, she's very very crude and very fluid. She doesn't have she doesn't have ornamentation, right?
Yeah, in the comic, in the first book of the comic, she basically is just like it's a red head with no, like, it's just her. There's no features whatsoever on her. She just has so and in a way that I'm trying to bring the comic closer to some of the stuff. I think when this character emerges, she'll look more like she does in the game.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Brandon. From a personal standpoint, did you ever get the icks or the yucks when you saw, a render of a character that you drew or designed? You've drawn her for what,
Sure.
50? She appeared in like 50 or 60 pages of the first volume. Did you ever get the yips when you saw, some medieval armor on the side of her head or anything like that?
I mean, a lot of it for me is like having a bit of a disconnect with the fighting game, because there's a weird thing for people that read the comic. The main character, Adam, is almost like this like pacifist character who's like trying to figure out his stuff in the world, and so it's kind of a contrast to the fighting game aspect of it. And we're going to have some characters. We're doing a bunch of side comics that are kind of more arena fighting based. Yeah, but I kind of like, there's something weird about liking a project where the comic and the video game are going to feel kind of different, like different versions of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the lack of symmetry is almost more interesting to me than if everything was like in lockstep.
Right. So you didn't have that kind of reaction. I was just
not really. I mean, there's always the artist's inclination to like I feel like artists sometimes, their brains either go to everything is better or everything is worse than what I do.
right.
And I feel like I'm trying to get a little more just like things can be different and not like something I find really interesting about XURXO's work in general is that we're drawing from a lot of the same influences, but he's taking it in totally different directions. Like both huge Mobius, Droulet, Darrow fans, or whatever. We're always talking about different comics that we like, but like my version of it is to go more Tintin, and his version of it is to go more Darrow.
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe like Sylvain Dupree is kind of a better, because even you look at Sylvain Dupree and he's a fantastic like film guy who worked on like Fifth Element with Mobius, and he wrote the foreword for the second Moonray book, I should mention. But
thank you very much, by the way.
Guy, what's that?
Thank you very much for that, Sylvain, by the way.
Oh, yeah. He's a guy that is essentially working in Mobius style, but is doing a much more rendered kind of film version of a lot of the ideas, which I think is kind of where XURXO is going. Oh, yeah, the Red Lady drawing on here, I think is really excellent.
Yeah, so we actually include. Did we include this in the final?
I think that's in. It might be in book 2.
If it didn't make it in the final cut of book 2, we'll pop it in book 3. But I don't remember if it made it or not, because we had a little scramble at the last minute for 2 pages. But yeah, that's fantastic.
So here's the render, and here's the final one, right? The final version. You can see there, maybe it's not the highest res right now because it's loading, but you can see, and also with the color we manipulate the details and stuff. So I directed the color for everything. It's very delicate because you have so many options with things, and then we did variants, so we did variant versions, so we have different skins and for it, and it brings up details or mutes them and things. It's very, very interesting. And we were talking about Adam, and you can see here, I went through the book on Adam, and we had the same issue that it wasn't in the book is too simplified, for this 3D rendering. So I came up with this, of an exaggeration of the eyebrows and stuff. and to make it more expressive, perhaps,
Right.
But yeah, because he's also a flat character, in terms of color. He doesn't
You've
have color.
updated his musculature as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because he's bigger on some and smaller on some, and he's gonna be the hero. So we needed that. So I went through the book. Also, Brandon draws freely, and so sometimes he puts some details and sometimes he puts some others. So
Right.
I did this sort of animation turnaround
Right.
idea, so we could get a closer thing. And this is the sculpt as it evolved, and you can see it there. And then we have to work out all the kinks, because he has that block arm, but in some occasions he's going to need to grab a sword, right? So we had to create a hand for it. Also, he has a blaster, and it didn't make no sense. He has to shoot, right? So he didn't make no sense for him to be carrying a weapon like a human would. So we make this blast arm idea, which was more, it resounded better with the character, and you can see it there. And eventually we got to, let's see if I can find it, the color process for him. Let me see. These boards get really large, and somewhat
yeah, special attention to the color, because I was shocked the first time that I saw the full trailer and saw all your color palettes. I mean, you have a very distinctive. You and Brandon both are incredible colorists, but you have very distinctive sense of color palette, mood, color combinations, how to use things that people might anticipate being clashy colors, but using them in a way that doesn't actually clash, but instead it gives visual excitement or friction. And here they are imported into a fighting game. It was very shocking.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's the color sensibility that I have and that I like, and it's the one I search for. I don't have a big argument, a big defense of why I use those colors. I mean, I cannot do, but it's just, the ones I like. So I try to find them. I like, a lot of color, and I like contrasting colors, but I do also have limits to that. There's stuff I find too much or too obvious, or too that you see too often. So I try to bring those atmospheres. That was always the project too, because we were always trying to bring a comic book to life, in a way, a 70s vibe comic book.
Or like Metal Hurlant stuff. I'm interested, XURXO, in what stuff, like a lot of your initial stuff was just doing illustration work, but then when you get more into working with the 3D artists and getting things rendered, was there a lot of things that you learned that you didn't expect on how video games work? Like, is it different than has your mentality in the last 6 months about how video games are put together changed very much since working in it?
Yeah, well, I had no idea. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a gamer, so I had no idea. I love movies and I love visual effects, so I know a lot about that too, as much as a fan can know, right? So I know that, and I like photography, and I like. So I had some ideas, right? And there's a lot of that in here too, in this thing. And what I learned is, like I said before, that it's all encompassing, right? So the more that you know, the more that you can bring into this. So the more you know about perspective, the more useful it's going to be, because you're going to be able to visualize. The more you know about sculpture, like with traditional materials like clay and metal and wood and stone, the more you're going to be able to manage these other materials, because after all, the computer, the softwares for 3D are emulation softwares, right? They emulate materials and they emulate reality and everything. So and they emulate cameras and they emulate everything. So the more that you have around you as a familiar context, the more that you will be able to navigate this the opportunities that something like this creates or produces. And you can see here, this is Adam's color base, right? color reference. See, so I used a bunch of ceramics and things because he's a very muted character. So, and this was fantastic, you know, because with these materials, with this 3D software and paint software and everything, you're able to paint you know, to use these raw materials and you know, and make your characters look very unusual. As you can see here, is where I was looking at the different versions of Brandon's Adam to produce this amalgam of the one, and you
That's
can
him
see
before he started working out.
yeah, and now yeah, well, you know, I love superhero comics, you know, and it's my background too. So I usually tend to draw this bulky figure, not bulky, but just, you know, shredded or something, you know. Anatomy, it's always nice when it comes across, you know, in the body. So I do tend to do that. That's one of my things. Here you can see some of his weapons, how he would wield them, right? How he would handle them. This is his cannon, a very strange formation for a cannon also.
Oh yeah. Oh, something early. I should mention something early that we were talking about in Moonray. One of the reasons why the characters are these like, or one of the advantages, I should say, of the characters being these kind of abstract versions of humans. And in the comic, the lore is basically that they are post-humans transformed into this material medium that don't remember that they were humans. So
Right.
they do a lot of human mannerisms and build human things, but it's all kind of different. It's but has that kind of, I think of it as like it's like kind of a wonky reflection of what it is to be human, because they're not quite human, but that's where all their identity and memories come from. But the game's being made in Unreal Engine, which is the same engine that like Fortnite is run off of. And in that, we can make things pretty much look close to reality if you want. So the idea is if you have a bunch of things that like Adam looks like he's made out of ceramic, then you can make the world look pretty much realistic, because what really will shock you is when you see like a human face in 3D. Like you get that uncanny valley.
Right.
A lot of the idea of this was to make something that where you can make that, you know, like you can make a hand made out of ceramics that looks what a ceramic hand would look like, and it's in a, you know, an environment that's like a green grass field that looks kind of what that is. It's gotten much more stylized, but that was an interesting idea early on that we were playing with.
You're essentially avoiding the uncanny valley by making the designs, the characters far enough removed from humanity that you're not going to have that uncanny reaction to them.
Right, but the tethered to humanity means that if we were like, if somehow in the comic somebody is like eating with a fork, we can be like, well, they have some memory of human stuff. We don't have to. We haven't done a fork yet, but you know, if it did, it's kind of like it makes sense in the lore.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating because in a comic you are not bound by anything, right? You can draw whatever you want, right? You can draw exactly a fork. You can be sucking on a floating bubble, right? That's
Yes,
your nourishment, right? And
sure.
we do that, and it's very simple. And but in this software, it is pretty much as simple as that. You know, you just have to will it into existence. It doesn't take VFXs, it doesn't take movie magic, it doesn't take, you can actually do that. And so we're embracing all that stuff, and we're running away from the stuff that is impossible in terms of imitating the human face and making this woman look pretty like a human or exactly like some actress. This is something that many attempt and many fail. To start from a point in which that is not your interest, it's a good thing, and it allows for all this other exploration. And as you were asking before, as I progressed in the work, let me show you this thing. I never used this
Ooh.
a few months ago, but this is Adam in 3D, and I repainted this. I went over and painted this thing myself. So you can see how crazy you can go here, you know, with details and stuff. And
Huh.
Some of this is not seen in the game because characters are smaller. But there are chances when you see, there are occasions in the game when you do see your character large, like in the select screen and things. So the better it looks, the you know, the better for everybody, right? So this is yeah, this is pretty cool, you know. And I'm learning all this software just intuitively. I have no idea. I haven't watched any videos. I just watched someone else do it. But as I said before I did this, before, like when I studied in the university, I studied fine arts, and I used to paint, right? I was a painter,
Right.
and I was an abstract painter, and I didn't study paint, but I painted a lot, and I had a career in that field to some degree, and so all that experience feeds into this directly, you know. And then also I have some experience with sculpture and stuff because of my mom. My mom's a sculpture artist, and so I'm very familiar with clay and ceramics and stone and so all this stuff. So when I'm imitating clay or I'm imitating something, I know how to do it, you know. So it's an all-encompassing art. It's very interesting, much like films, you know, where you do need painters, and you do need architects, and you do need photographers, and you do need actors, and you do need costume designers, and you know, you need all the professions, right, to collaborate. And in this thing also, but it has that commonality with drawing, you know, that with the same apps, let's call for now drawing an app, quote unquote. So with the same apps, you can do everything, right? So drawing is the app, and with the drawing app, you can do everything, right? You can do the fantastic, right? Whole world. And with these couple of apps, you can, you know, pull from here, pull from here. You can do everything. It just takes time and more than one person, but you know, you can do a lot yourself.
Oh, I want
Right. We
to
should mention, what program are you using here? Is this, it's Substance?
Yeah, this is
Substance
called
3D Painter.
Substance Painter. It's by Adobe. So it is a little bit like Photoshop. As you can see here, there are layers and things, and you can turn them on and off and stuff. It is a little bit more complex, but you can paint over this thing in 3 dimensions, right?
Right. So that's
So
how you got the patina that's happening here, like how it's like
yeah,
darker as if it's been fired
yeah,
or weathered underneath the fold of the chin, and
yeah,
you have like the green patina as if the jade is like leaching into the, you know, area nearby.
yeah,
All that
yeah.
stuff is applied by hand by you.
Yeah, these are layers and layers, and there are easier ways to do this using UV maps and technical stuff that I'm not aware at all about. Rarely, I mean, barely. I'm doing this on the run and playing it by ear, right? So I'm just taking the models and painting over or adjusting the paint and just bringing them up, you know. And so you know, I can imitate, and I can imitate aging, right? And I
Right.
can imitate this and that, so by painting it. So I do that, but
So
there
is
are
this,
technical.
sure,
What?
sure, is this kind of a guide for the guys doing the video game? You do this and you're
Oh,
like, make it look like this,
this
or?
is the final thing. It goes straight to the game. It
Right.
Okay,
just
cool.
goes straight to the game.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, what else? Because it's 3D, so, and as I said, it imitates reality. So here I can paint with gold, and I can paint with wet material, or
Huh.
with dry material, or with coarse material, right? And I can adjust all these things endlessly, right? So it is it is very interesting. You know, it's time consuming and things, but all that stuff,
Yeah,
but
do you think this stuff is affecting your drawing outside of, like, does working in the video game affect your, do you think your illustration is going to be forever changed by the other tools and things you've learned in doing this?
I don't know. I mean, my illustration always changed to some degree. You know, whenever I don't draw for a while, I always feel like I forgot how to draw or something like that. But
Sure.
yeah, but here I'm just working all the time, you know, so I don't really differentiate when I'm drawing or when I'm doing this, you know. When I jumped into digital, and we talked about this a little bit in the last occasion that we spoke, but when I jumped into digital, one of the questions that that most people had for me was like, oh, do you notice a big difference between drawing digitally and not drawing digitally and stuff? And I never noticed anything, you know. It's just exactly the same, you know. Obviously painting is different, you know, but who could really you know, who could really be surprised by the fact that painting is going to be different? You know, you don't have to buy the tubes of paint, right?
Sure.
And you don't have to press them, but the act of drawing, the relation between your hand and your arm, or your intention or whatever, that I don't really think the hand and the arm are very important in drawing. They're just suppletory elements, but it's just a vision thing, right? And
Right, 'cause you also jump back and forth between paper and digital, and you don't seem to, like, I've known artists that have a hard time with paper once they get into digital. So
Will you come out of the
I don't
screen
know.
share before we here, let's
Yeah, you want me to come out? Okay.
yeah, let's come out of the share real quick before, so we can for this part here. Sorry. I just killed it.
Should I quit it or something? Or
No,
what?
just unshare that screen.
Yeah, I don't know how to do
Oh
this.
wait, never mind. I got it.
Here, okay. It says I'm not sharing, so
Oh, weird. Really?
I don't know.
I think if you go to the
It's
bottom, there's the share screen thing.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay, stop share.
Okay, there we go. Perfect.
I have a very big synthetic screen, and sometimes I don't see everything.
I'm sorry, Brandon. What was it? You had an excellent question that I've forgotten.
Oh, I was just talking about different artists that I've known that, like, I've known several artists that get used to working digitally and all the advantages of it. Because scaling is a problem with digital stuff oftentimes too. Like oftentimes the way that I can spot if a comic is digital is if they're not really good at spatial relationships between things. And I mean, like, a character, if you do a character in a city and the city doesn't look gigantic, it looks kind of weirdly, like some artists and will have a difficulty doing long shots if they're good at close-ups. Like, they lose what the character looks like, kind of what XURXO was talking about with the silhouette. And I guess a compliment to XURXO is you are able to work in digital and work on paper and physical, and you don't seem to lose anything, and you're still able to have the spatial relationships that other people don't have. And I think I should probably stop questioning you about it, because every time I bring it up, you're like, what? No, it's not a problem. I just do it. And it's like, it's a problem for everyone but you, as far as I can tell. So, I mean, good on you.
It was a problem. It wasn't ever a problem, but I faced this with paper as well. Resolution of reproduction, you know, how much resolution the reproduction is going to have for people to appreciate the amount of detail that you devote to a certain area, right?
Right, like how zoom goes.
Yeah, because I would work with 0.1
Pixels.
Not pencil, pens,
Micron.
right?
Yeah.
Or whatever, micron, and it would be pointless because no one would see it, right?
Sure.
So yeah, so you have to be aware of that, and the computer aggravates that, so you could get into more trouble with that. But the idea that the way that you draw, the way that you move your hand, the way that you obtain lines, and then jumping into paper, back into paper, it's going to be disrupted. The reason I don't have a problem with that is because, as I said in the other interview, I only use one single pen to draw. Okay. And it's like a regular pen, like a regular ball, not a ballpoint pen, but a felt tip regular pen, right? And when I want to use a pencil, I just hit that button on Photoshop that makes it gray, or semi-gray, right?
So if you zoom in, it's going to be giant and thick, so you're kind of limiting yourself by just the size in the
Yeah.
in
I can change size a little bit, but
Okay.
what I don't do, I don't do magic pencils, magic brushes, amazing flares and stuff. And I could see that to become a problem if you always draw with these tools that don't really exist in the real world, right?
Sure.
Because you can't have that brush and use it, right? So I would see that if you so I don't want to be, you know, an ass here and just
Does the
say that.
Control Z ever get like people? I've noticed a lot of artists will get you too used to being able to undo a line, and that was always the fear of
Yeah,
digital. Is that
yeah,
something you limit yourself, or do you?
absolutely. Yeah, whenever you draw in paper, you feel there's an automatic reaction to use Control C, and
Right.
also and you realize, but you also get used. I also use all sorts of tools, right? I always have the keyboard in the other hand, because in order to move fast, I use a lot of shortcuts, right? And now I have this thing, right? This tool that is like a shortcut compressor in a way, right?
Right.
So you have in a compressed space several shortcuts, and you can adjust your size of a brush quickly, or the zooming in and out and stuff, right? Many things just in this tool. And it's very useful because also the Cintiq is very big. This is the biggest one, and it's absurdly big. It doesn't really need to be that big. And when you get this big thing, it becomes a problem to you. This only matters to people that draw on the computer and use a very big Cintiq. But you still want to use your shortcuts, right, and your keyboard. So you're forced to be. Oh, sorry. In this,
Sure.
you know, the world is coming down. So you're forced to use this very awkward shoulder position, you know, like
Right.
this. And I was having
Terrible.
problems just because this is stupid thing. And I took forever to solve it. And this thing certainly helps, because I can just have it in my leg, and I can just you know be like
Right.
that, you know.
And it looks like a Star Wars thing, so that helps too.
That helps too. Yeah.
Matches
I try to be very fast, you know, and not fast, but because I am a slow artist, as you know, or anyone that follows me knows. But
I think you think you're a slow artist, but the level of detail you do, you're very fast. like,
I could be faster.
I would defy
faster.
someone to draw like you and do it faster, because I do think you're putting a lot of work into it.
I don't know, but thanks. I'm always trying to be faster and stuff. So shortcuts and stuff, they're very useful for that. And I hate going over steps if I can just do it in less time or something. And also when you draw like this, or even any kind of work, even this 3D work, it's very useful for me to have my sight focused on one area, right, and not move my head too much. Because if I'm always moving from this plane to that plane, this plane to that plane, I get I waste more time, and I get more confused. I get more distracted, and I'm less sharp in terms of focus and stuff.
Gotcha. Well,
not that I'm very sharp, not that I'm very focused as a person. It's just like, you know, in that bottom line of poor results, they're even poorer if I move my head.
Well,
don't think that I'm here just managing, you know, big things.
Look, don't listen to this guy. You want to know how sharp he is, go pick up Moonray Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 2 especially, you get some stunning stuff. Take out the other video that discusses XURXO's art process. And man, what a transformation you've made in the past. I mean, I know you've been doing this for a year and a half or 2 years, for quite a while in terms of the development side. But congratulations on the launch of the game. Congratulations on being art director for it, and man, go out and check this game out. Even if you don't typically play arena combat stuff, there's just a huge amount of amazing things to see and do and hear. And I hear that it's developing as they're going. So this is a live project that is constantly changing and evolving. So I hope everybody will check it out.
And it's free, and it's in the Epic Store. You can get it there. So
Fantastic.
why not?
Yeah, why not? Anything else you guys want to say before we hit it for this video?
Great.
You want to hear something else from XURXO and want to pick his brain? Let us know in the comments what you want to hear about, and we'll see if we can, twist his arm to get him back for a third time. So, thanks so much, guys, and thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye. All right, I'm gonna.